How you doing? Tuesday it is, and on Tuesdays we talk about parenting. This month we are focusing on single parenting, and I have an interesting conversation we'll be getting into in the next short while, so stick with me. My friend, do you wash your hands? It's very interesting how it's become such a habit. You enter the house. I don't know about you, but for me, I enter the house and something just tells me, your hands are dirty, your hands are dirty, and I have to wash my hands. Washing our hands, I pray that we continue with that until kingdom come. Putting on a face mask, we are still struggling, some of us, but we need to put on our face masks. And we also need to maintain interpersonal distance, my friend. You know, you've seen what is going on. Pande za Nyanza, Kisumu, huko Kakamega. Yeah, the cases have just because we are neglecting some of these things. And that is why Eden Tea, the finest garden tea, is here to remind you and I that Eden Tea cares, and Eden Tea is reminding us, wash your hands with soap and running water. Put on your face mask properly, cover your nose and cover your mouth, and also maintain interpersonal distance. There's three simple things. I think these are the new 3 golden rules. These 3 simple things are helping us to keep the COVID-19 virus at bay and to contain it. Eden Tea is available at leading supermarkets, comes to you in several flavors: Eden Green Tea, Eden Purple Tea, Eden Lemon Tea, Eden Ginger Tea, and Eden Premium Tea. And it is affordable. It is the finest garden tea. If you haven't tried it, try it out today and give me some feedback. Now, we need to take a look at the local dailies and find out what are some key stories that are making headlines today. And even as we do that, then after we will get into our discussion for today. Daily Nation: for once, MPs are broke like all of us. Gotire pesha. For once, that's the story. That's the big story. For once, MPs are broke like all of us. It says, running on empty, gauge iko E. Legislators say they have not received mileage allowances for the past 2 months, pointing to a deepening problem at the Treasury at a time when county governments have been given notice to shut down operations, citing a big cash crunch. Oh my goodness. Parliamentary Service Commission allocates about 10,000 bob allowance for chairing a committee meeting. A vice chair gets about 7,500, while an ordinary member takes home about 5,000. MPs are also entitled to a mileage allowance calculated at 187 shillings per kilometer. My friend, Ruto too is hunting in NASA, says Joho. Deputy President William Ruto in secret talks with some national super alliance leaders as politicians intensify coalition building ahead of next year's elections. Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho has alleged it is called musical chairs. It happens after every 5 years. It's very interesting, Kenyan politics. You know, this election, there's enemies. They are saying all sorts of things against one another, stirring up the crowds, and we follow, and we hate each other. The next election, they come together, and we are confused. Oh, I thought, my friend, we need to style up. We need to wisen up. Other stories on in the Daily Nation today: curtains fall on former spy chief who battled Moi. This is former Deputy Director of Intelligence, Stephen Mwangi Morezi, who died yesterday after a long illness. You can check out that story on page 3 of the Daily Nation newspaper today. Quite a bit of party politics and people realigning themselves. You can take a look at that. Also on page 5, or rather page 8, Kenai murder trail gone cold, DPP Haj says. 1 month after former administration police officer Arnold Kipiegon Kenai was found dead in his Imaradaima home, Nairobi, detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations started tracking his phone location data as their boss made public CCTV footage while promising to make arrests soon. But apparently, the trail has gone cold. You can take a look at that story. New KTDA board takes over and suspends 6 bosses. That's on national news on page 9 of the Daily Nation newspaper this morning. On matters COVID-19, Kenya receives 358,000 COVID doses, expecting 13 million by August. Doses to be delivered to all region government stores within 24 hours. Yeah, second dose, watu wamekuwa wakicomplain, second dose haiko. watu wanangojea second dose na second dose hakuna, na vile watu walijitokeza wengi wakaenda wakachanjwa. Okay, other stories, editorial, center pages. I'm trying to get to the pullout today. Several pullouts. Smart company, sectors with big money in budget. It will be prudent to think local production if you want net cash in the coming financial year. I think that's a good thing. And powering SMEs, the future is green. 2 Kenyan innovators have launched an electric motorbike taxi that will help lower the carbon footprint, one that they hope will accelerate Africans' transition into e-mobility. That's a step in the right direction. Take a look at that story. And then we have the third pullout, Healthy Nation, risky trends. As vaginal cleaning procedures catch on, gynecologists worry about their safety. My friend, take a look at that story. Back pages of the Daily Nation as we check out sports. Some of the stories making headlines in sports. Limuru's Mara at cut above the rest. This is on matters golfing. And then UEFA Euro 2020, you have Netherlands there. Find out what is being said about Netherlands. And then, my friend, it's 2 days to go. WRC Safari Rally. Get the updates on the back pages of the Daily Nation. And then also, CJ Koome now reshuffles judges in Court of Appeal. Those are some key stories you will find in the local dailies today. Keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Coming up shortly on Parenting Tuesday, we talk about the financial burden of single parents. Stay tuned as we get into that discussion. Wazazi, especially single parents, vuteni stool karibu na TV na karibu na radio. We have an interesting conversation we want to get into this morning. This month we are focusing on single parenting. And today we are talking about the financial liabilities and the financial burdens on single parents. So if you're a single parent today and you're tuned in, would love your feedback on this topic. What are some of the financial burdens that sometimes overwhelm you as a single parent? Talk to me. Send me SMSs on 20316 with your responses, and also on WhatsApp on 078-6316-316. This morning, we get to hang out with a life coach, Rose Ndishu. Rose, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Karibu sana.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Now, you know, Rose, I was just thinking that we live in a time today where even 2 incomes are not enough. You know, you have families where the dad is working, the mom is working, and they're still trying to run a side hustle because the needs are so overwhelming. And I'm just thinking, what about the single parents, man? I mean, it must be so hard for them because they have only probably 1 income.
Yeah, I think it's actually crazy now that you are just reading the papers and saying how hakuna pesa.
Yes.
It can only get worse.
It can only get worse. That is so true. And so today we want to get into this discussion and see some of the issues that single parents face, and maybe if we can come up with some solutions, I think it would be great. So when you talk about financial burdens where single parents are concerned, what are some key things that come to your mind?
The things that come to my mind when single parents are facing problems are the things that they haven't done or things that they should do. Such things as maybe not having enough to have an emergency fund, or not having an emergency fund, not having savings, not having stable incomes. I mean, there is a range of problems that just come to my mind when I think of single parents and finance. Okay.
And I'm just wondering, how do some of these problems affect their life as individuals, and also affect their parenting, and also affect their children? Because you have the single parent, they're trying to live life, they're trying to raise a child, and so all these things are intertwined. What are some of the effects that we begin to see because of lack of adequate finances for a single parent?
Some of the things that come out, especially towards their parenting, is neglect of children, because sometimes a parent is trying so hard to make ends meet.
Yeah.
They have to get many jobs at a time. So there is that disconnect between the parent and the child. Sometimes feelings of resentment can arise because some parents might end up feeling like this person is the reason why I'm having to go through this. And again, that brings root problems to both the children and both the parents, because the parent will also start feeling like they are not adequate enough, they are not good enough parents. Then the children might start feeling like they are such a burden to the parent. Feelings of guilt arise from both sides.
Yeah.
etc. Anger arises. So most of the times you've seen, and we've seen cases where children from single parents have a harder time, so to say, than children from two-parent family.
Okay. I'm just wondering, you talk about resentment, and sometimes you can even get into a space where you feel like you're not a good parent because you can't adequately provide for your child.
Yeah.
How does this affect the single parent as an individual? These feelings of guilt, or maybe these feelings of unworthiness, I'm not good enough. How do they affect them, and even their productivity, and even their parenting skills?
Yeah, exactly. It actually, yes, it affects their productivity. They end up getting stressed, depressed, especially in a world where people can't even pin down what depression looks like or is. What was the question again? Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
How does it affect them as an individual? Because you have all these feelings of unworthiness, I'm not good enough, guilt. So there's the individual as a single parent and their productivity, and also there is their relationship with their child and their parenting skills. How does this affect all that?
Okay, so it makes a parent feel unworthy and unable to raise a child properly, and then they might withdraw from parenting. They might withdraw their love without even knowing. They might, obviously at work their productivity is low, because for a parent and a child there is supposed to be love, and that love is what motivates them to keep working.
Yeah. So
for as long as they keep feeling feelings of inadequacy, not imposter syndrome, they obviously do not parent as they're supposed to. They do not shower love. They are unable to shower love because they don't know how it looks like. They feel like if they are unable to provide for a child, they don't love them. So they start feeling guilty.
Okay. Do you think society is harsh, especially when we look at a single parent this is a lady who got a child out of wedlock? Do you think sometimes society is harsh on such ladies because atukukutuma so ulienda kujitafutia mtoto, you make sure you take care of that child, and sometimes we are not willing to step in. Even family members may not be willing to step in because we were not with you. We taught you the right thing to do. You went and did your own thing. So I'm just wondering, do you think sometimes society and even family becomes harsh when it comes to offering financial support and encouragement to a single lady who got a child out of wedlock?
Yeah, obviously, because in this, especially this cultural setup, and actually most cultural setups, the idea was supposed to be a father, a mother, and a child.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be like that. So anything that is contrary to what society deems okay is going to be frowned upon. People will frown upon such, and then who they blame is the wrong person. And this blame game is very unconscious. It is because of the societal construct that it is supposed to be like this, and if it's not, it must be someone's fault. So they blame the lady mostly the man is also blamed, and then that just lowers their self-esteem earlier. The person being blamed will have to take that burden on someone else.
Yeah.
Also.
Okay. Some of the comments coming in this morning. Where is that comment? I saw a comment here. This one says, single parenting is really challenging. The beauty of it is that it pushes one to depend entirely on God, and God is a provider. That is a wonderful thought right there. Thank you so much. And then there's this This one says, hi, Pastor James. Sometimes we get into our financial mess as single parents because we are trying too hard to show the naysayers that we are acing this single parenthood thing. You therefore end up overspending in unnecessary things to prove a point. My advice to fellow single parents, you don't have to prove to anyone that you are a good parent. Just do you. Stick to your lane and live within your means. Above all, seek God. I don't know what you think about that comment, Rose. You know, trying to show people that Nikosawa, you know, I am good. What are your thoughts about that?
It's actually like a double jeopardy
Mm-hmm.
when you have to take care of both the child and yourself. So by the time you're giving yourself unajipea nguvu,
Mm-hmm.
it's because inside you're dying slowly, but then you have to keep proving to yourself and also proving to society that you're good.
Yeah.
So it's actually like double jeopardy. It's just really, really hard. And that is why we need divine intervention. Because we need someone to give us strength. So I agree with them.
Okay. I think this is one good reason why sometimes a single parent would find themselves in a situation where they are financially constrained. Are there other reasons why such things could happen?
Financial constraints,
Yes.
other than the economy being horrible.
Yes. Other than the economy being horrible and MPs not having money just like us.
Yes. Another reason is what I think I had said earlier about not having prudence in finances, like financial discipline,
Mm-hmm.
taking financial courses, having enough savings. Those might, because when you're raising a family, there are so many avenues that money needs to be used.
Yeah.
People need to step up as far as how they manage their finance is concerned, how their financial discipline is concerned. So these are external factors that don't have necessarily anything to do with you as an individual. But if you sort them, you will have more confidence in yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does one, as a single parent, begin to build a base where they can ensure they have, you know, enough finances for themselves and even to raise up this child or these children? Are there tips you can give us? Are there avenues they can get information?
I feel like what I want to talk about that as a life coach is a bit more drastic from what has been talked about before. I could get tips off the internet. There are so many people who've talked about this in the internet source, in the newspapers, everywhere. But there's something I've actually come to recently, which is dealing with the root cause of the problem. In fact, I was just thinking during the break that finance is a problem across the board. It's not just for single parent, only that the single parent seems to get it more rough. So if you could solve the root cause of the financial burden itself, then that would clear everything, to your parenting skills, to your self-confidence, everything. So there is something called completion. It's identifying the patterns and the patterns that you have around money. Every time the money subject comes up, like this is a whole money subject, there is what emotions are evoked immediately. Some feelings are of guilt, like we talked about, resentment, fear, inadequacy. Those are the feelings that are automatically evoked when finance topic is brought up. So the thing that one needs to do, and everyone should do this, is completion. I call it completion.
Okay. Explain to us what completion is.
So every person in the world, including the single parents, has gone through certain things that triggered certain emotions in them, even when they were young. For example, how you were raised and the interactions between you, your parents, and money as far back as you were young and as you have been growing up. So over time, people create patterns. So now we will just restrict ourselves to finances. So you create a pattern around
money.
Finance, money. Allow me to give an example. Yesterday I was in a matatu, and there was this man who was refusing to pay 20 shillings. And I had the people in the matatu saying how they don't understand how he always doesn't want to pay, yet he's a very rich man. So that is a pattern for him. Withdrawing money from his pocket, getting money from his pocket to pay for something is hard for him, regardless of whether he's a millionaire or not. So that's a pattern.
Yeah.
So for anybody to complete that pattern, or any pattern of anger, a resentment, or feeling inadequate, is by going back. There is a process to it. I don't know if I should just continue explaining the process. There's a process called relieving, like live again. So what you should do, what someone needs to do, is to go back, identify the pattern. So if you feel anger about money, you need to sit down at a quiet place and then try to go back to when you felt that feeling the first time. It could have been because, let's say, it doesn't have to be when you are young necessarily. It could be at any point in time, but mostly these things are brought out when we were young. These are patterns we formed during our formative stages. So go back to the point in time when that emotion was evoked. So let's say if it's anger, maybe you saw, something happened to your, let's say your parent, your single parent, or your parents, or the parents. So maybe you had two parents, maybe you had one parent, and something money related evoked anger in you. So you go back to that moment and forget that you're an adult right now and go back to the child that you were and start replaying that video as if it was happening again. That is what is called relieving.
Okay.
So there's a difference between relieving and remembering. So the point is not for you to sit down and remember what happened.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to go back as if you're that child once again and see exactly what happened, what evoked that anger, what happened to your parent, what happened to X in that circumstance that made you feel angry or resentful or fear.
Okay.
Once you do that, what happens is that emotion dissolves. It's like magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, even with all that, there's still the reality that we don't have a lot of opportunities, or so we have believed, and I'm looking at that single parent, especially that single mom. They have so much they need to do. They need to take care of this baby. They need to look for opportunities. They have to juggle so many things. How do they find balance in that? Many times I meet, ladies who are just trying to find odd jobs to do. And when you have an interaction with them, they tell you they have 1 or 2 children they're trying to raise. They are all alone. You still have to think about going home and making a meal for your children and ensuring that they have what they need. But you still have to be the one to go out and find something. So where do you find the balance? How do you create balance so that you don't drown in all this?
So again, I'll just go back to what I just explained. That because if you don't deal with what is the root cause, you'll just keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I can tell you can balance by ensuring that you plan properly, you manage your time properly. Those are just, for me, as a life coach, those are just bandages to the wound.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you just deal with the issue itself, which is money, once you heal, it's called healing. If you heal what is the problem for you, not for your children, not for your parents, you will just see some new possibilities just open up for you. You'll start having a different relationship with money, so much so that even now when you come down to planning your time, being able to balance properly, and all those other tactics I could easily give you, you see things falling better into place than if you don't heal the root cause of the problem and you keep trying to get tactics to have a better life financially.
Okay.
So for me, it's very major. It's very critical that people heal their money wounds or money problems.
Listen to this comment. This one says that being in a women's group has been helpful to me. Through little contributions I've made monthly, for example, I've been able to have land and also have a home this whole aspect of community and chamas and groups. Do you think this is an avenue that is wise for a single parent to be part of, based on the testimony of this listener?
Yeah. Yes. It's having people who understand you, people who won't judge you, having a support group, people who have the same vision as you is very helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have someone to commiserate with.
Somebody's asking on that whole thing you've talked about. They're asking, so the patterns we express, do they emanate from traumatic experiences?
Yes, mostly they are things that cause you trauma. And what we do with that is that we suppress it, and then throughout life it keeps trying to manifest itself because it wants to be acknowledged.
Okay.
So that's what it's a wound that you keep covering, and it never dries, it never heals. So yes, it's from traumatic experiences. Once you relieve that traumatic experience, it disappears.
Okay.
It's like you open the wound and it dries.
I want to take you back to something you were saying before we had issues with the connection. We were talking about a father who's raising up a child alone and a mother who's raising up a child alone. And you said something that, society is more sympathetic to the father than to the mother. It's easier. You think it's easier for the society to offer help to the father, financial help to the father, as opposed to the mother? And if that is so, why do you think that is the case?
First, the father, I think, because we expect the mother to be nurturing and automatically motherly, and to be able to handle all the problems that come with motherhood. I think people assume she's able to do it. Assume is the word.
Yeah.
But her father is, in the societal construct, is expected to deal with other things, like go out there and deal with the world, and then I'll deal with the children. So you gave an example of the father who's carrying a baby on their shoulder, and that automatically is the wrong. This is not supposed to be happening. So people automatically feel like they need to run to that single parent's rescue more than they would the same woman. And also, it's just expectations that society has put in and made them a norm, so much so that people think that's how it's supposed to be. Yet nobody sits and asks people, what do you really feel inside? What caused you to? What happened to you? Nobody ever sits down and asks people what is going on inside you, not what comes outside, not what people see outside. What is going on in your heart?
Okay. If you have any questions for us today, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. We are looking at financial liabilities facing single parents. If you are a single parent, talk to us. Share with us some of the experiences you are going through. It is Parenting Tuesday this month. We are focusing on single parents, and today we are talking about the financial burdens that single parents face. I'm hanging out with Rose Ndishu, who is a life coach. Rose, I'm just thinking, you've talked about some of this, issues that we go through, and, they affect us, and how we relate with money later on in future. And I'm just wondering, for this single parent who's struggling financially, how do they get to the place where they ensure that what they're going through now does not affect their children in future, especially from the financial angle? Because you have all this, money is very emotional. Especially when you don't have it, you can get angry, you can say things that I still remember some things my mom would say when she had no money. So how, as a single parent, how do I ensure I don't inflict wounds on my children, so that when they grow up also they don't have issues surrounding money because of the things I did, because I did have the money?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, I'll go back to the patterns, and I am happy that you exactly said what your mom used to say. So how you prevent you saying the same thing to your child right now is if you heal that wound, if you heal it. Because what happens is you might not even know it, but you say these things, but then you say them unconsciously. Most of these patterns are are put in ourselves by people who are unconscious. You don't do it. Nobody ever hurts their children intentionally. You will never tell your child what your mom used to tell you consciously. Utajipata umesema, wow, what am I saying? I'm acting just like my mom. I'm just acting like my dad. Najua, like, I'm just thinking my parents, there's one of them who used to say, sina pesa at any given point. I found myself saying the same thing, at least to my siblings, sina pesa.
Yeah.
Then one time I caught myself and I noticed, wow, this is so unconscious that there's something here. It's not like sina pesa, I'm just used to that pattern. So it goes back to the pattern that you are given by the parents who are also given by the other parents, and it was very unconscious. So this is a generational thing, and why I'm here today and I'm happy to be here is because I'd like to call all the listeners up to take up the challenge to end the generational problem. Like, put an end to it, because otherwise if you don't put an end to the pattern, it just keeps replaying itself. And you can't do this consciously. It's not something you can tell yourself, oh, it doesn't work that way.
Okay. You know, on that comment, on that story, there's a comment here that says that part of healing is very key. I remember being fixated to the help I was supposed to get from my ex, but when I let go and accepted to carry the burden, I seemed better control of my finances, and we never lacked from then on without additional income. I think that's an important point, because we have all these conversations about deadbeat dads. You know, this man made you pregnant and disappear. They don't want to offer any kind of support. And sometimes you hang on to that so much, it even blocks you from moving forward. It blocks you from thinking of creative things you can do, you know, to be able to up your income. Maybe you can say something about that.
So most people, again, in the society, the society says it's supposed to be two-way. There's supposed to be a provider and the recipient. Mostly, like you said, the deadbeat dads, the man is supposed to be providing. And in most cases, if you're deadbeat, it means you're not providing, or you probably left your family. So you leave a family that is wounded, you leave a family that is angry, and they hold on to this anger, especially now the single, let's say, woman, keeps blaming. They fill their heart space with more blame, and they have no space for creativity. Just like you said, they don't even have an open place to create more, to live more. They just hold on to this anger for so long, and the bitterness. So the thing is that people live lives thinking they are owed. Like, this person owed me. The reason why my life is like this is because of this other person. And for that, I'd still give the same solution. You need to complete it. That's what I was calling what I was saying, completion. Complete that, then it stops repeating itself, and you don't need to forgive. This is another drastic thing. You don't need to forgive, because some people are just not good people.
What do you mean? What do you mean you don't need to forgive?
So what happens is, like I said, it's drastic. What happens is, if you complete a cycle, you end up forgetting. Then you don't need to struggle with forgiving, because sometimes forgiving is really hard, and that's why people struggle, right? So what now happens is, during completion, you forget. You run that cycle. Once you relieve that moment, you feel that pain, and then it leaves you. You no longer even need to forgive. It's not like you don't forgive them. You get into that space that pain dissolves, that even when you see that person, you don't get triggered. People react to triggers. So you don't need to forgive, because you have finished that pattern. That's what I mean. You just let them go.
So basically, okay, if I get you right, going through that cycle helps you to deal with the bitterness or the anger, the resentment that is in you.
You
know, because you say you don't need to forgive. Somebody may think, okay, I don't really need to forgive them. The reason why I'm pointing out on forgiveness is because the previous hour we have just come out of talking about forgiveness and the power of forgiveness, you know, and how forgiveness is for you, because forgiveness is part of the inner healing. When you don't make the choice to forgive, then you hold on to something. Somebody said that, you know, hatred corrodes the container that carries it. And we always think forgiveness is for the other person. It's never for the other person. Forgiveness has got nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness is about me finding healing and finding peace in my heart to move on and to make something out of my life.
Yeah, 100%. Like you said, it's healing yourself.
Yes.
So how do you get that healing? How do you get the healing? So two things. People struggle with forgiveness. The reason why it was a discussion is because people struggle.
Yes.
If it wasn't a struggle, we wouldn't need to talk about it.
Very true.
So a way to go around it, sometimes because people think forgiving is, I am not acknowledging that I was hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
left me, you raped me, you left me, you did not this, you did not do that. So what I'm presenting today is, instead of having to wait for that other person to either come and apologize or for you to struggle with it, you can just shortcut it by reliving that moment. So the moment he left you, relive that moment and feel that pain. Because if you don't feel that pain, no matter what you do, even if you tell yourself consciously that you've forgiven, once you see that person, you're triggered.
Trigger something,
so
yeah.
to remove the triggers, you relieve that pain, it dissolves out of your body. That's why I was saying it's like magic. It works instantly.
Okay. Well, I'm out of time for today. Rose, thank you so much for being a part of Parenting Tuesday today. And thank you for the tips that you have given us. We truly appreciate.
Okay, thank you too for having me.
Awesome. Well, our time is up for today. Thank you for being a part of Parenting Tuesday. God willing, we'll get to do it again next week.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.